right. We should be streaming live again. And my hope is that this will find you in a wonderful place today, that you are walking in peace, that you are doing well, you're having a healthy morning. And my hope is that your afternoon will be blessed and refreshing. And you'll actually find this day a day that has meaning and purpose and a lot of things to be grateful for. So, as you know, I'm beginning to do streaming on YouTube as well as on Facebook and Instagram right there. And I've got to figure this out eventually to where I can work it out to where I'm looking at one thing. But hey, I got my one camera here, the other one right there. So I'll be looking back and forth, and kind of forgive me for that. But right now, when you are limited in your abilities, that's what you do. But I hope that either way, you'll find the content to be meaningful, inspirational, and hopefully in some small way, educational. And if you desire, transformative as well. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, or what I'm talking about, is what I call the 8 components of trust. Now, this really comes from the work of David Horsager in his book, The Trust Edge. Excellent book. It's a business book, actually. And of course, David teaches that the greatest commodity that a company has is trust. And when you break trust in a company, you've actually not just harmed your employees and yourself, you've harmed yourself in a big way with your customers. All right. And many years ago, he and his wife attended one of my 3-day marriage retreats in the upper parts of Minnesota. And I met him there, and he actually gave me a copy of his book. And I ended up going to his training, and it was wonderful, as a matter of fact. And as I was getting to know his work and his training and read his book, I was like, man, this doesn't just apply to the corporate world. This applies to all of life. And he said, yes. And for those in the faith community, these 8 components are actually, you can find them in scripture as well. So with that, and with his encouragement and blessing, I said, I'm going to go take and write some messages around these as it relates to family, marriage, relationships in the home, which is the sphere of what I like to operate in, right? I don't do a lot of this work in the corporate world like he does. He's really very good and astute at that. Phenomenal teacher, phenomenal educator. But my space, my wheelhouse is healthy relationships. And so I began to develop his principles into what I now call the 8 components of trust. All right. It was Roy Bennett who actually said, keep your promises and be consistent. Be the kind of person others can trust. You know, it is one thing to trust others, but it's another thing to be a person of trust, to live your life so that you are trustworthy. Do you live your life worthy of trust? You know, if you do things that hurt people along the way, then you've lost trust. And trust can be easily given, but it'd be very easily broken, by the way. And be difficult to get back. Not impossible, but it can be difficult to get back. And so when someone says, you just need to trust me, or just trust me, not that easy. Why? Because what David's research shows, and what I'm adapting here, is that trust has many different tentacles to it, if I can use that, components to it. And a breakdown in any one of these components, you've lost trust. Now, I want to kind of make a statement here. One of the ways that we trust people ultimately is how we know them, all right? We trust people based on the way that we know them, all right? Think of it this way. If I know you to be late, then I trust you to be late. If I know you to be on time, I trust you to be on time. If I know you to be selfish, I trust you to be selfish. If I know you to be kind and considerate, I trust you to be kind and considerate. You see, we always trust people based on the way we know them. And guess what? You create your own way of being known. That's just the way it works. You create your own way of being known. So, how you treat people on a regular basis is how they know you. So, for us to say, you just need to trust me, but their experience with you over time is that you are consistently late, you are consistently unkind, you are consistently demeaning, you're consistently negating or critical. That's how they know you. And that's how they're going to trust you to be. And when people experience you a particular way over a consistent period of time, you just showed them who you are, and that's how they trust you to be. So that's why I say, saying to someone, just trust me, may not be as easy as you think it is. It could be that they know you a certain way, and thus you don't have trust. Now, here's another thing I've learned about trust. Trustworthy people are never bothered when their trustworthiness is actually questioned. If you question someone's trust, whether they're trustworthy, and they're bothered by that, that probably means they're not trustworthy, because trustworthy people aren't bothered when their trustworthiness is questioned because they're trustworthy. So if you question someone who's worthy of trust and who is trustworthy, all right, then the trustworthy person would say, well, what did I do that make you doubt me? And what can I do to rectify that? You see, but people trust you based on the way they know you. All right. If I know you to make poor decisions, I trust you to make poor decisions. If I know you to disrespect yourself, I trust you to disrespect yourself. If I know you to disrespect others, I trust you to disrespect others. And you've proven that you're not trustworthy. So we trust people based on the way we know them. So from the rest of our talk now is we're going to talk about what are the 8 components of trust. All right. And let me say this, as we go through these 8 components, a breakdown in any one of these, you lose trust. You actually lose trust. All right. So let's kind of go and take a journey into the 8 components of trust. All right. Number 1, we trust people who are actually explicit. We trust people who are clear. We trust people who say who they are. We trust people who are not vague. We trust people who are not evasive in their answers. They're explicit. They're clear. Their yes means yes. Their no means no. You ask them a question, they answer you clearly. But you do not trust people who are vague, evasive. Let's use a business example. Let's say I want to go buy a car and I go down to a dealership and I'm looking at a car that I really like. And I say to a salesman there, hey, that car right there really looks like a good car. Is that a good car? I mean, how does that car rate? And the guy goes, that car right there? Yeah, that car. I think it's okay. No, it isn't. Yeah, no, that car. Yeah, that car's okay. Got it. Yeah, that car is okay. I'm sure it is. And I would go, well, do you know for a fact it is? Yeah. I'm positive. I'm positive. Yeah, that's a good car. You hear that lack of clarity? You hear he's not explicit. Yes, no. When he starts answering that way, he starts losing trust. You probably won't buy a car from him because you do not trust people who are not explicit and clear. When you start answering questions and you're vague, you're evasive, you lose trust. Here's a family example. Guy comes home, wife says, where have you been? I've been out. Out where? Just out. Why do you always question me? Well, you said you'd be home at 7 from work. It's 10:30. Where have you been? I told you I was out. I've been calling. Why didn't you answer the phone? Why do you always have to question me? You hear that lack of clarity? He just lost trust. You lose it in that moment because we trust people who are clear and explicit. You do not trust people who are not. And if you're going to be evasive in your answers, if you're not going to be honest and upfront about what's going on, you just lost trust. It'd be easier to say, where you been? out of the bar getting drunk. What'd you do that for? Because I don't want to come home. Might make them mad, but at least you got trust because you're being honest. Number two, we trust people who are qualified. Who are qualified. You don't trust people who are not qualified. You trust people who are competent to do the things they do because they're qualified to do it. Think about it this way. Now, I have the tools at home, okay? Would you trust me to remove your molars? Would you? Probably not. Why? Because you know that I am not qualified to remove your molars. Hey, I got the tools. It doesn't matter. You know I don't have the education. You don't have the experience. I don't have the training. And I didn't have the supervision in doing it. So you would be really wise not to trust me to remove your molars. You see, we trust people who are qualified and competent. You don't trust people who are not qualified and competent. If you say you can fix a dishwasher, you better be able to fix it. If you say you can fix a car, you better be able to fix it. If you say you're good at communication, you better be. If you say that you're good at healthy relationships, you better be. Because if you live your life where you're not good at healthy relationships, but yet you talk like you're qualified, you just lost trust. Why? Because the incompetence that you live out moment by moment in your relationship, proving that you don't do healthy relationships, lets people know not to listen to you. Why? Why would you want to listen to someone who's not qualified to do it themselves? You see, we trust people who are qualified. That means you got to be competent. It's true in the business world. Why do you think certain professions like psychologists and doctors and social workers and other professions, why do they require by state law, if they're licensed, to have continuing education? Why? Continuing education allows the public to know that you're staying up to date, qualified, and competent in your field. That's why CEs are so important, is to reinforce to the public, if you're licensed, that you're staying competent and updated, all right? You don't trust people who are still operating in the 1800s, right? A lot of advances in science and knowledge. Let's stay up to date. Same thing. If I say that I'm tender and nurturing, I better be competent being tender and nurturing. If I say that I'm good at healthy relationships, I better be. If I say I'm going to love someone well, I'm going to love them well. If I say that I demand people respect me, treat me with respect, and I'm not qualified to do that, and other people disrespect me, you just lost trust. Why? Because people see that you don't do it yourself. You just lost trust. Who are you speaking to me when you're not doing it yourself? We trust people who are qualified. We trust people who are competent. Number 3 component is we trust people who are dedicated to us. We trust people who are committed to us. Let's say you purchase that car and you get a warranty. Something happens at about 32,000 miles and you take it in. It's a $75,000 mile warranty. So you take it in and get the repairs made. And you find out when you get to the service center there, they're not going to honor it. They're not committed to their warranty. And they're going to argue all day with you. You go, wait a minute, this thing is still good. You're telling me you're not committed to following through on this warranty? Yes. Well, you'd probably sue them, do whatever. Why? Because they lost trust. Probably never buy another vehicle from them. Why? Because they're not dedicated and committed to the things they say they're going to do. You lost trust. Same thing. If you're in a relationship and someone sends you the message, I really don't care about you. I'm not committed to you. I'm not dedicated here. You can't trust them. Example. Early in my marriage, in 2 arguments in the first 8 years of our marriage, Luella got angry with me in 2 arguments. And in those 2 arguments, she was angry with me a lot more than just 2, by the way. But in these 2 particular arguments, she went from us discussing the issue to, well, why don't I just leave? I'm like, how did we go from here to there? That was like, how did we do that? I forgave both of them. However, what I did not know is back there at the unconscious level, I also had a question mark in my mind unconsciously. What would it take for you to leave then? What I didn't know is that second time, though I forgave the statement, I did not trust her to fully be dedicated to the marriage. There was a part of me that wondered what it would take for her to leave. So I didn't trust her to stay. There's a part of my soul that said, you'd leave one day. Why? The fact that you threw it out says you're not fully dedicated or committed. I always jokingly say, but say this, but when I married her, I kind of told her, hey, you ever leave me, I'm going with you. I'm dedicated. I'm committed. I am not going to live in an insecure relationship, and I don't want you to live in an insecure relationship. I learned one thing growing up in a broken home. Don't trust people to stick around. They're going to leave you. Sadly, I've also learned that so-called friends of yours won't be around either. People will leave you. And people from broken homes, particularly divorce homes, one thing that we learn is loyalty is not a value. Loyalty is not a value. So you tend to be loyal to yourself. You see, you don't trust people who aren't dedicated and committed to you. If you keep sending the message, I'm not dedicated, I'm not committed, then that person is going to feel insecure in the relationship. They're going to feel insecure with you. They're going to question unconsciously or consciously, even if it's in the back of their mind, what would it take for you to leave? Apparently, you're not really dedicated here. So what would it take? And you lost trust. Because we trust people who are dedicated. For those in the faith, when you hear the phrase, I'll never leave you nor forsake you, that's dedication. That's commitment. You see? If someone says they're dedicated and committed to changing, they go do it. They go do it. Because you trust people who are committed. If you say you're going to go do something, do it. We'll talk more about that in another prism in a little bit. But we trust people who are committed. If you're committed to recovery, recover. But if you're not committed to recovery, I can't trust you. Why? Well, because you may go back to using again. When we show that we're dedicated and committed to a relationship, to something we've committed to, that helps other people feel secure around us. And that security creates the trust because you're dedicated and committed. Number 4 component is we trust people who have empathy, who are empathic, people who are caring. You do not trust people who are uncaring, who lack empathy. Now, we know you can define empathy here as stepping into another person's shoes, kind of feeling what another person feels, experiencing life through their prism, right? That's a definition of empathy, and it's a good definition. I kind of make it a little simpler. Empathy is when I always send a message that I care about how you think and feel, that what you think and feel matters to me. Don't ask me if I agree, though. But I do care about how you think and feel. The fact that I care will show that I have empathy for you. All right? But when you send the message, I don't care, you just lost trust. You just lost trust. Because when we send a message that I care how things are for you, in order to have empathy, you got to seek to understand that person. You see, understanding means I've got to step into your world and see the world through your perspective. I don't have to agree with your perspective, but I'm going to see the world through your perspective. Why? So I can get understanding. And when I see your perspective and I care about how it is, you feel valued. You feel that your perspective matters. I may not agree. You got it? But I do care about how you think and feel. I just don't agree with it. And we trust people who send the message that I care. If someone comes to your business and buys something and they bought a faulty product, nothing on you, but they bought it, and you say, look, I don't care. You bought it. It's just the way it is. It's not our fault. Get over it. You just lost a customer because you sent the message, I don't care. And they don't tell people about that. And you just lost a lot of customers. You see, even in the business world, we're not going to send the message, I don't care. Sadly, we tend to tell people we don't care. I don't care how you think. I don't care how you feel. I don't care that what I did hurts you. Well, I did this because I was worried about that, and I don't care how it is for you. And yet we'll trust them anyways, even when they send a message, I don't care, and they make excuses for the behavior. And you still trust them? Man, oh man, they don't understand. They don't understand the pain they cause. But we do trust people who are caring. When someone keeps sending you the message, I don't care, you're telling you not to trust them. If you do, that's on you. Number 5, we trust people who are upright, people of character. You see, people who respect other people's dignity and value and worth. People of character, people who strive to live out the great human virtues of life. People who lack character cannot be trusted. But here's the weird thing about our culture today. We don't value character much anymore. What we do is we value charisma. And therein lies the problem. Here's why. The word charisma comes from a word that means to elicit favor. In other words, charisma needs other people, all right? In other words, I'm a charismatic individual because you declare that I am. And when I do what I do, you go, yeah, 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 right? And I feel good about me. And I get emotional dopamine from all of that, right? I feel good about myself, but it requires you. Charisma requires other people. We value very charismatic people who lack character. Did you get that? We value charisma. We don't value character. We value appearance, not character. That's why people will stay in relationships with people who lack character, because they don't value character. They value how you make me feel. They value what you look like, whatever. But you can be a person who is very charismatic and lack character. You see, the word character comes from a word that means to be chiseled. To be chiseled. It's the mark left by a chisel. In other words, character develops in life as we're chiseled, as we work through things and develop ourselves and become people of virtue. But here's the great thing about character. Where charisma needs other people, character needs no one. Character is in private as it is in public. Character is something that you become because that's what you desire to be. And you don't trust people who lack character. Sadly, our culture does, but that's because they've kind of got it wrong, in my personal opinion. But when you value charisma, and that charismatic person fails in life or hurts you or harms you because they lack character, just remember, you don't value character, but we tend to value it when character hurts us. We trust people who are upright. We trust people of character. Number 6 component is we trust people who connect to us. We trust people who emotionally create a bond. We trust people who emotionally connect to us. Why do sales people build relationships with you as a customer? Simple. If I build a relationship with you, then we form a connection. If I build a relationship with you, we form a connection. We build some level of friendship. You're more likely to buy from me. You're more likely to buy from me if we have a connection. You see, this is why salespeople, wherever you go, they want to build a connection to you. Why? By building the connection, you're more likely to purchase. You don't purchase from someone that you don't know, you're not connected to, all right? Particularly big ticket items, right? We trust when a relationship has been established. We don't trust where there's not a relationship. It's that old adage that I don't really care what you think until I know that you care about me. We have a relationship, you see. Now, the leading place in the world today, well, the United States, should I say, for building connections is places like Starbucks. People go to Starbucks to connect. A lot of people do business meetings at Starbucks. All right. It's a great place to connect. But in those connections, we start to trust. Why? Because I'm building a relationship with you. And when you build a relationship with someone, that's a connection, you tend to trust them until they do something that harms the relationship. And then you've lost trust in them because they've hurt the connection. You get it? It's not rocket science, just pretty simple. So you can think about it. What have you done in your life that has hurt relationships? If you trust someone who has hurt relationships more often than not, that says a lot more about you than it does them. Now, number 7 component is we trust people who follow through on what they say they're going to do. You do not trust people who don't follow through. Example, if I say I'm going to fix something, I better fix it. If I say I'm going to repair that, I better repair it. If I say that I'm going to get sober, then you better follow through and get sober. You see, we trust people who deliver on what they say they're going to do. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. If you don't do it, you've just lost trust. All right. If you say you're going to transform, transform. If you say you're going to heal, then heal. If you say you're going to stop doing something, then stop doing it. But if you don't, you lost trust. So we trust people who follow through on what they say they're going to do. But if you keep saying one thing and doing another and you don't follow through, you've lost trust. It's not rocket science. It's just pretty simple. And then number 8. Number 8 is like the big kahuna of all of them. It's like the kingpin of all 8. Number 8 is we trust people who are consistent. Who are consistent. Consistent in what? Here we go. Ready? We trust people who are consistently explicit, who are consistently qualified, who are consistently dedicated, who are consistently empathic and caring, who are consistently upright in their character, who are consistently connecting, and who consistently follow through. Because we trust people who are consistent. Remember I said earlier in our talk that we trust people based on the way we know them. If I know you to be late, I trust you to be late. If I know you to be on time, I trust you on time. Why is that? It's because I know you to be consistently late, so I trust you to be. I know you to be consistently on time, so I know you to be. Got it? That's the area of consistency. Consistency can be for good or bad, though. It can be for good or bad. I can be consistently late, consistently on time. That's good or bad. I can be consistently kind and consistently unkind. And people trust you based on how you are consistently. You see? And so when I become consistent in all 7 other components, I have trust. I have trust. And here's the key. When you have a breakdown in any one of those, any one, you can be a person who follows through, and a person who connects, and a person who has character. But you may be also evasive. You may not be explicit. You may not be dedicated. You lost trust just because of those 2 areas right there. Just because of those 2 areas right there. And so we trust people based on the way that we know them to be. We trust people based on what we know them to be. So now you can ask yourself, how do people know you? How do people know you? How do people experience you? Could you say that you live your life in a way that in my relationships, I'm trustworthy? If you're a parent listening to me, do your kids trust you? Are you worthy of trust in all 8 areas? If you're a dating person or a married person, do you live your life being trustworthy in all 8 areas? Or maybe in this talk, you are, I guess I'm not really consistent in being dedicated. Maybe I'm not consistent in being qualified. Maybe I'm not trustworthy in being following through. Then go become consistent in those areas. Work on those areas in your life. Why? So you can be a person who is trustworthy and worthy to be trustworthy, worthy to be trusted. So when you say, you can trust me, they'll know they can. Because you live your life in those 8 areas consistently being a person who is worthy of trust. It's those 8 areas. So we're going to review them as we wrap up. We trust people who are explicit, who mean what they say, who aren't vague. We trust people who are qualified, competent. You've got to be qualified and competent. If you're not, you lose trust. We trust people who are dedicated, who are committed. We trust people who are empathic and caring. If you send them a message, I don't care, or you lack empathy, you lose trust. We trust people who are upright, people of character. We also trust people who connect to us at the emotional level. They bond to us. We trust people who follow through on what they say they're going to do. And the last of those is consistency. We trust people who are consistent in all of the other 7 areas. So it's just to say, just trust me. There's a little more to it. But I hope in some small way, this might encourage you to become more trusting in the areas you need to work on just as much as I do. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.